This veterinarian wandering in the forest heard a familiar trumpeting sound from an elephant he had saved years earlier. The elephant's reaction after the reconnection surprised everyone. Wildlife veterinarian Dr. Patara Manat left his tent in the Rayang woodland in eastern Thailand to walk because he was bored. He was impressed by the wildlife park's commitment to safeguarding animals in their natural environment and the surrounding beauty. He got lost in his thoughts and wound up more into the forest than he should have. He was fascinated by the elephant's recognition call. To satisfy his curiosity, he started going toward the sound. He heard the enormous elephant's trumpets and their footsteps shaking the ground under him. Patara witnessed the lovely creatures eating fruits and foliage from a tall tree from a higher angle. Although they were unfriendly to humans, the elephants seemed to have overcome their past tragedies, most of them having witnessed poaching. However, Patara watched from afar to avoid notice. He marveled at their tenacity, recalling the many lives he had saved as a wildlife veterinarian. Patara tried to shift his weight to crouch for a better view. Unfortunately, he lost his equilibrium and fell off the small cliff. His fall echoed through the woods. The three closest elephants instantly turned their huge heads toward him. At the elephant's unexpected attention, Patara got a chill. He stayed still to avoid being viewed as a danger. The elephants stared at him, scared and curious. Sitting on the forest floor, watching the largest of the three elephants slowly approach, its terror set in. It seemed annoyed, or maybe it was hiding its fear or aggressiveness. Patara wished he had returned to his base instead of exploring the jungle. His first panic intensified, and something incredible happened. The nervous elephant became curious. It became curious instead of violent. As the huge elephant approached, the in-pain veterinarian struggled to grasp this sudden change. But Patara's dread turned into a strange realization. The trumpeting sound that drew him here brought back memories. As if understanding Patara's motion, the huge beast touched its trunk to her palm. He was filled with emotion when they touched. The elephant displayed silent affection when it realized who had saved it after all these years, continuing the friendship from a key rescue mission. That touch brought back memories, overcoming time and circumstance. Patara relived his years with an elephant in Thailand's Rayang woodland. A safari van carried a younger veterinarian named Patara through the thick woods. With acute eyes, he observed a young elephant named Fong, faintly standing by the road, almost dying. Patara gently lowered his dart rifle after being astonished that the weaker elephant was not hostile. Fong, too weak to stand, dropped in front of him and breathed deeply as if it were his last. The doctor raced to its side to see the horror. The small elephant was fatigued and depressed, its eyes half closed. As Patara stared at the sick critter, she felt empathy and realized Fong was silently pleading for life. The veterinarian's reassurance and optimism for the elephant's recovery cemented their friendship. Medical personnel and an ambulance arrived. Patara convinced the team not to use a tranquilizer after seeing Fong's submission. The huge and arduous task of loading the young elephant onto the van came to mind. Despite the challenges, they loaded him into the car comfortably. Dr. Patara, who cared for Fong, took the elephant to the vet. He monitored vital signs and collected diagnostic data while traveling to assess Fong's condition with his medical equipment. After arriving to the veterinary facility, the crew carefully removed the weak Fong from the car. Despite his weight, they led the juvenile elephant to the treatment chamber. Fong gathered his strength and reached the specified position before fainting. His battle thickened the air in the veterinary institution, creating an urgency. The battle against Fong's disease took center stage when the doors behind the downed elephant closed. Dr. Patara treated Fong medically and emotionally. However, Fong's fever rose unexpectedly, halting healing. As the situation worsened, her modern medical equipment grew scarcer. There were concerns that Fong would die and the steady development would end. Dr. Patara searched for a method to avoid losing his strong bond with the elephant. He comforted the fragile, ailing Fong amid uncertain times. In response to the doctor's comfort, the baby elephant became more determined to combat the ailment. It worked, maybe because the veterinarian's kindness reminded him of his mother's. Patara and the medical staff were thrilled when Fong recovered fully. The sick elephant got up and explored the ground a few days later, delighting the medical institution. Fong, grateful for his second chance, always blew his trumpet when Dr. Patara was there. Elephants would approach veterinarians and lure them in with their trunks, forming lasting bonds. Fong's kindness conveyed an indescribable connection. It was time to release Fong into the wild. Dr. Patara was happy and sad. He was happy to save that wonderful spirit, and sad to say goodbye to the animal he had grown to love. The veterinarian prepared for the sorrowful parting, realizing Fong had to return to its herd for the greater good. Fong's first step toward freedom brought Dr. Patara to tears. He was overtaken with emotion as he saw the elephant go and trumpet momentarily, almost like saying farewell. Patara cried as his gratitude lingered. His co-workers, moved by the spectacle, gave him a handkerchief to dry his tears. Patara's painful departure inspired him to treble his efforts as a veterinarian and wildlife welfare advocate. He returned to Thailand's Rayong woodland to safeguard animals after all these years. In the lush vegetation, he noticed Fong, the elephant he had saved. At their reunion, Dr. Patara liked looking into his friend's intelligent eyes. He is amazed the elephant acknowledged him. Over 10 years had passed since they met. Elephants' large, well-developed brains allow them to process and remember a lot of information, making them famous for their memories. The elephant must have remembered Fong and Dr. Patara's rescue. Dr. Patara's dislocated knee hurt after releasing his hands from the elephant's trunk. While Fong watched, he quickly tied a scarf around the damaged knee from his belt pack. Expert medical practitioner Patara used the scarf as a brace to correct the knee. He cried out in anguish, and Patara grabbed some painkillers from his belt pouch. He stood up and lurched forward, holding out his hands again. Although Fong was stronger today, he remembered their friendship. Unlike last year, Elephant towered above Patara and drew her in with its trunk. His trumpeting signaled gladness and recognition, as if he missed the compassionate veterinarian. As the trumpets rang out, memories and reunions filled the room. Despite his knee pain, Dr. Patara felt joy and fulfillment. It had been years, but the elephant-human link had not. The day's surprises began with Dr. Patara's reconnection with an old friend. Two younger elephants, watching from afar, came closer to Fong's quiet trumpet cries. As they approached, the vet was thrilled to see that these were Fong's babies. One was nearly a month old and the other was still immature. Fong looked to be introducing his family to the veterinarian and the two baby elephants, to the guy who saved their father. Dr. Patara loved the two adorable newborn elephants' pure gazes and energetic behaviors. Their trunks were full with curiosity and enthusiasm as they explored. Due of their enthusiasm, the baby elephants gave the setting hope and renewal. Fong's, appearing proud, nudged his children forward if he was introducing them to an old friend. Dr. Patara, emotional, stooped to the kids' level. The babies tilted their heads and excitedly flapped their small ears at the person in front of them. Fong took charge, possibly feeling his old friend needed help. It was his turn to repay. The big elephant gently lifted the doctor by wrapping his trunk around him. Patara was scared at first, but he realized Fong was holding him lovingly. After returning to the way he had come from, he realized that his buddy was returning him to the base, protecting him, and preventing his knee from worsening. Patara was touched by this realization, which indicated the gentle spirit he had encountered years earlier was still kind. Shortly after, they reached the base. Patara's co-workers were astonished and worried about his departure when they saw Fong, the large elephant, carrying him. Fong gently lowered the doctor in front of his colleagues like a baton. Now it was human responsibility to care for others. The elephant trumpeted goodbye to Fong as Patara left, then returned to the herd. The base was intrigued as the veterinarian recounted his unannounced escort. Co-workers were shocked and wanted to know everything. Over time, Fong became a symbol of effective conservation and a living illustration of the unbreakable bonds between humans and nature.